House to Home, presented by Remax Diamond Realty.
Half a day and happy holidays, everybody, from our family here at House to Home to your family out there, anywhere you're watching this right now on any device. Liz and Gina and I are very happy to bring you yet another action-packed episode of this. So, ladies, before we get into this week's topic, how are you doing with your Christmas shopping? Gina, you first.
I think I've got like maybe 10 to 12 packages wrapped already, ready to go under the tree. I've got a whole bunch of stuff I'm hiding in different parts of my house so that I could get them wrapped up. So I think I'm doing pretty good.
Okay. Well, Liz, you're basically never on Guam long enough to actually do any shopping and everything, but you're all over the world. So.
Yeah, well, I started for our team. Our family will be stateside for our granddaughter's graduation.
Oh,
So we're going to spend Christmas with the Casimiro family in California. We're going to be in Arizona for her Bria's graduation, and then in California for our Casimiro family reunion.
Arizona or Arizona State? Cool.
Bria's graduating from Arizona State, yeah, and then she's going to go into her master's program.
Hey, Sun Devils are having a really, really good season in football, man. Horns up.
Yeah.
Okay, so transitioning from family graduations and parties and whatnot to a celebration of another type is the celebration of knowledge, right? And that's what we pass along here on the show, as we tell you all the time. And last week we talked about property registration. Gina, we talked about the why and why it's important last week. Now we're talking to you about how to get from point A to point B and some of the mechanics about registering your real estate.
Well, yeah, we talked about the mechanics of getting your property registered, but Liz and I were thinking we should tell you a little bit more in depth about what you should look for in order to make decisions. Because if you're going to register the property, there's a map involved. And if you're going to do the map, then you really should. There's a couple of things we always stress that you think about you're going to do a map. First of all, we want to encourage the concept that if you have enough land, that you can actually, if you're surveyors, and if they don't tell you, ask good questions. Ask your surveyor with this amount of land and the location that it's in and the infrastructure that's available. Or sometimes the infrastructure is not available, but you have enough land, and you could tell your surveyor, look at my map, and before you finalize the registration, let me know there's 9 of us in the family, or 2 or 5 or whatever the number is. Can we each individually have a separate lot? Can you cut this up so we each have a separate lot number that we can say is ours? That would be the first step. And if the surveyor says, yeah, you've got enough land, I could cut this up so each person will get a piece, then I would say, I encourage you, I really, really, really highly recommend that you do it at that point. You tell the surveyor, go ahead and do it. Whether or not you actually each get a piece, at least it's ready for that process, right, Liz?
Mm-hmm. That's right. So going into that, if, for example, you had 10,000 square meters and you had 20 in the family, as Gina puts it, how many parcels can you get? And the key, as Gina put, is the zoning as well, the location. What is allowable in terms of building? Can you build a house with it? What can you do with that piece of property? So, so when they come to us, we look at the map, and then, there's a calculation we do just to see how much, but then of course it has to be verified with the surveyor. So to see how many lots are possible within that zone and what can you do? What's the use based on the zoning? So there are many different ways to look at it, because if it's M1 zone, that's industrial. If it's agriculture, there are limitations. If it's R1 and there's sewer, that could mean you can get more lots if it's an R1 zone and it has sewer in the immediate area. So talking to us, at least we can get you from step 1, step 2, step 3, and we bring in the surveyors to give you an idea. I also want to bring up that survey nowadays is more expensive in comparison to remember the days where you paid 500 or 600 for survey. Now I just got a quote just to mark a boundary point, which was about 4,000 square meters, which was 21,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow is the word. And
Okay, and ladies, as you've noticed, as you've noted many times on this show, that a good surveyor, especially here on Guam, is worth their weight in gold, or myrrh, or frankincense, because we're tying in the Christmas theme, right? Um,
Yeah.
but it's also it's an essential part of the process. But also, we are very limited in the number of surveyors that we have here.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's
I
true.
have a surveyor that I generally use for, I've used him for my personal stuff. I generally, there's a couple of them that we refer to our customers, and they're all overwhelmed right now. They cannot take jobs because there's just more work than they can handle, not enough manpower. I actually, one of the surveyors was talking to me and he said, Gina, I can do the work if I had the manpower, but we cannot seem to keep employees. The staff doesn't stay. It is hard work. You're out there and you're clearing, most of the time you're clearing areas so you can mark the points in there. I mean, it's not, yeah, you're lucky if it's a home, but a lot of times you're dealing with land, right? And so it takes a lot of work to get that done.
Is there not
And
opportunity? D Does the lack of these trained, certified, licensed professionals, if licensure is even like required for survey, is it?
yes, it is required.
Yeah, okay, but there's opportunity therein. I would think that if somebody wants to start a survey company out here, another one, or if you would like to become a surveyor yourself, Liz, what is the process if one wanted to get that licensure?
Yeah, to be licensed, you have to work under a surveyor for a number of years. So there are requirements, and there's also an exam that they have to take. And sometimes people take the exam 2, 3 times before they pass. But for example, our company, Duenas Camacho and Associates, our surveyor Nestor passed away, but we planned, and he was in retirement phase, but we brought him back to work for us because there were limitations of employees to get that are certified as a surveyor. So we trained one of the younger employees to get ready for the exam, and he did. Of course, he served the requirement of service under the survey department, and he passed the exam. And now Chris Hill is our surveyor with our company. The problem with that is they're backed up like 6 months worth of work. So whenever I try to squeeze in a project, they said, it's kind of tough because we've got 6 months worth of back work. And I was able to get Efren Santos, who's another surveyor, to do the work. And when we try to get surveyors, it's critical for marking the boundary points because it's hinged on closing a transaction. And so Gina and I are scrambling to find someone to get it done in order to close that particular transaction. And we're in the holiday season, and you know how that gets, where things get even more backed up
Mm.
during the holidays.
Yeah.
And
And that's
surveying
part
is
of,
is
that's
a
part of the
profession we
reason.
know that the people that do that kind of work say it's better to do it right the first time rather than do it fast.
You
That's
should
right.
always do it right the first time, no matter what you're doing.
Sure.
But that's part of the reason that we're bringing this up about the registration process and doing the map, because it is, I mean, in my mind, it's expensive. It isn't something you could just wake up one day and say, hey, let's do this. No, it's going to cost good money. And so, but I think the benefit is the surveyors will take time. Lucky if you could do the registration process and get your map subdivided in a year. So if you have a year, that's a year that you could, if you plan in advance, and that's part of the reason we're bringing this up as part of the topics that we discuss, is so families can get together. You know this is going to come up. You put your money together. You pay probably half of it up front, and then the other half, it's coming down the pipe. You prepare yourself to pay it, and that way it's more manageable. And you ask these good questions. Well, could each of us get could you subdivide it so each of us have a lot that we can pull, at that point, if you all agree to do it that way, then you put the numbers in a pot and you pull the lot number. So each of you will have one. So when you register the map, your names could go on there. Liz got this lot, Jason got that one, and Gina, will just leave her out. But you know what I mean? I mean, you make decisions and you do that at that point. So
But
it'll be very, if you prepare yourself, it's smooth. It's an easy transition.
Hey,
and that's why
Liz got this. Liz got the beachfront view. I got the Tangentongan side, right? I'm facing a brick wall.
And that's why we talk about it on the front side. Come see us and we can give you some guidance because if there's so many in the family, there's bound to be many different personalities and many different priorities and concerns. And that if the property is not, we're not able to subdivide that, or you're able to subdivide that to accomplish everyone's needs, then some discussion at that point will have to be made to probably place the property on the market because at that point everyone can get some share of the profits or from the sale of the property versus not getting anything at all. And they, of course, that monies they can take to use towards something else. But in all the years that Gina and I have been doing this work, when the families are large, there's bound to be issues. And it's really important to come to the table and start talking about it on the front end. Because if you don't, and you're anticipating getting a piece of property or selling it, and yet no one can decide, then what happens is the eventuality of going to court, trying to solve that, which means more expense, more, more money's out of pocket. From the individual. So
Okay, now to be fair, boys and girls watching this, Liz and Gina and I were talking about this topic last week, and when we ended the Zoom call, we started talking about, okay, we've only been talking about regular nuclear families, right? Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, and then all of the grandchildren and the siblings and everything. We know the way things wind up on Guam too is divorces rates are at an all-time high. People remarry. You may have kids from a previous marriage and stuff like that. When it gets to be like almost that fragmented or fractionalized, Gina, how crazy does that probate situation make it?
I'm not touching that subject of the 10-foot pole.
Which kind of
That's
implies
how
how
crazy
crazy it is.
That's how crazy it is.
Yeah.
and we
Yeah, yeah.
both have seen our share of different. I mean, if you want to talk crazy, we've seen crazy.
Yeah. And that's part of why we do this show, to eliminate crazy, to help you get better organized, to help you understand the process so you can make better decisions.
Oh, and believe me,
Because
ladies and gentlemen, these two know crazy. I mean, they deliver crazy on a daily basis in the positive way, but we want to eliminate the bad crazy.
Well,
yeah,
I think I want to bring
absolutely.
up the point that you need your lines of expertise. Gina and I could at least give you some guidance. Then you've got the professional in the survey field. But the other critical part is an attorney. An attorney can help you resolve some of those issues on the front end, such as a trust, and then give you guidance. I mean, we had our trust done. And now we're revisiting it. We have given it to an attorney to review it, and then he's correcting some of the deficiencies in the trust. And then he gave us some wonderful advice in terms of how we're going to deed properties to the heirs to save the administrator headaches when they take over. So the attorney, the professionalism in having an attorney review your documentation is critical. Gina and I won't touch that stuff. We're just here to focus on the real estate aspect and then channel you to the proper professional to handle certain things, especially when there are complications in especially with the family.
And any good business person like Liz and Gina and any of their colleagues down there at Remax Diamond Realty in the capital of Hagana knows that, as a business person, you hope for the best, plan for the worst, but you don't like surprises.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, Gina, bonus question now, like before we end and everything. We were talking about surveyors, right? And I had the great pleasure of emceeing the Guam Industry Forum several weeks back that was over at the Duce. It was fantastic discussion about the increase in military construction projects that are expected and the bids that have already gone out and the projects that have already been the agreements that have already been contracted out. What does the military do for all of the survey needs that they use? Do they go outside and use private surveyors or do they have their own?
So and that's part of the reason, from what I know, a couple of the surveyors here, two of them that I'm aware of, the reason they can't take any more jobs is because they are being utilized on base. But I've also heard, Liz, that they have access to their own surveyors as well. But there's just so much work, not enough people. Even if you have your own team, there's just not enough. It's like contractors. We're short contractors because there is so much work out there, and not enough bodies.
And if you're doing work outside the base, of course, there are guidelines and requirements to have a license, a local licensed surveyor. And if you're an off-island surveyor, you have to comply with whatever those guidelines are. But when you're doing something on base, it's a little different. The military has control over that they could do whatever it is they choose within the confines of the military base.
Of course, yeah, there are regulations and requirements for a residential property. Commercial property is way more complex than that. I mean, you want to talk about like military requirements? Those are really, really big projects that are incredibly complex.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely.
Okay, so let's end on a high note, ladies. Liz, what's a good holiday wish you can give everybody as far as prosperity in the new year?
Well, it's always about love and peace. If you have any gripes or grudges you're holding, get rid of it. It isn't worth it. It's not worth it for you, your health, love and peace.
How about you, Gina? There's no probate for family drama, right? Well, and I guess there is.
No,
This we've been talking about.
not at all. But Liz is right. You know, we have a really great community here in Guam, and with everybody pitching in, and even if you just did a little bit and get rid of the negativity, we can really make such a difference here. We have a golden opportunity with all the projects that are going on from the military standpoint. That's fueling our economy. And we really should all put our heads together and come together and really create a great community, because we've got really great people here, and we've got a great, Guam really is a fantastic place to raise your family and live. And I know we can make it so much better. Just a little bit of effort.
Amen. And hopefully, just maybe if we all wish and lay out some like really good milk. I like almond milk because I'm lactose intolerant. Milk and cookies. Maybe Santa will bring a couple additional surveyors when he drops off his presents this year.
We'll get you some mescla cookies.
Yes.
There you go.
And surveyors.
I just handed out a batch today at the Guam Association of Realtors, so we'll make sure you get some.
Okay, but you heard it here, everybody. And speaking of legally binding contracts, that is one right there. So, all right,
you
ladies,
go.
thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Jace.
Thanks.
House to Home, presented by Remax Diamond Realty.